Adventures with Superman, Part 2, Episode 2, Season 1, Just the Adventures of a Normal Man, Part 2. It's your boy Icon with a DC TV animated review for you. And I have to say right out the gate, God bless Jimmy Olsen, because in the first episode and in this episode, this boy done name dropped the entire DC universe. Because Jimmy's trying to figure out, like, you know, these robots and these aliens and everything. He just said, like, we got aliens. He's like, we got mer people. He's like, we got Amazons running around. And everybody's like, oh, shut up, Jimmy. You don't know what you're talking about. Meanwhile, like, all this stuff is true. So now, and we finally got answers, because I'm sitting here in the last video, I kept talking about, like, the lack of his parents. Then as soon as I say at the next episode, his parents show up. So we find out why Clark doesn't know anything about his power and why his powers are new to him. Because they showed the scene that when he was a boy, his parents actually did take him to the ship in which he landed on, where he crash landed, and he went to the ship reacted to his biometrics, and when the ship reacted to him because he was a boy when all this happened, so when the ship reacted to Clark, he immediately freaked out, got scared, and he took all the dirt he could find and dumped it right back onto the ship. And he told his parents, he was like, oh, I never want to do that again. I don't want to go in there again because it's scary. So because of that, he never got the answers he wanted, and he never found out who he actually was. So now, you know, fast forward present day, because he's an adult now and he's working with the Daily Planet, he wants these answers and he wants to know what's going on. Lois and Jimmy, they decide to go track down the people that tried to kill them, and then Clark, in an effort to go find out who he really is, he faked food poisoning, and then he ended up going home. So we meet his parents again, he's talking to his parents, and then he goes to the ship scans his biometrics, and the ship takes him inside, you know, inside the core of the ship. When he's in the core of the ship, and I thought this was interesting too, his dad showed up in the hologram. And we've seen, like, television shows, we've seen movies, we've seen so many adaptations where the hologram of either Jor-El or his mother shows up and talks to him and has a conversation with him. But what they're doing in this one, because Clark grew up on Earth as a baby in Kansas, he doesn't know how to speak Kryptonian. So when the holographic image of his father starts talking to him in Kryptonian, Clark doesn't know what he's saying. And I was like, that was a nice little tidbit. That was a nice little nugget. We got an Amazo reference in the episode too. But, you know, then his dad ended up showing him, because his dad couldn't talk to him, he put the images of, you know, like, in his head. He showed him the image of when they put him in the rocket and when Krypton exploded. They showed him images of other things, so Clark has all these, you know, these pictures running through his mind. So that's when he was just like, wow, I'm an alien, you're my dad, you guys were my parents. And then his dad ended up using some magical clothing being and actually put the Superman costume on him. So he comes out of the ship, he tells his mom, he's just like, hey, Mom, I found out some information about who I am. And then his mom saw the suit, and she was like, oh, nice suit, honey. But she said, we got to make some improvements. His mom gave him the drawers and then gave him a belt. So now he's with his parents, and then he finds out that Lois and Jimmy are in trouble. So Lois and Jimmy now, they're following the breadcrumbs, they're following the clues. They track the intergang, well, I'm still calling them intergang. She tracked the intergang person, you know, like, down to the docks. They found the ship that they were transporting the robots on. And then they found, like, a manhole cover, and then they ended up going through the sewers to try to find the particular person. The girl in the first episode who was, like, the head of the gang. So as Lois and Jimmy are going through the sewers trying to find this person, they notice explosives have been planted all throughout the sewer system. So then when we fast forward and we actually see the woman who was who's head of the gang in the first episode, she's talking to the buyer, the guy who was supposed to buy those robots from her in the first episode, but he didn't get the chance. So the two of them are having a conversation out in public, and then as soon as he said, you know, because she was like, oh, it's finally nice to meet the buyer, you know, whatever, and then he said, oh, it's nice to meet you too, Leslie Willis. And as soon as he said that, I said, oh, she's Livewire. So Livewire black, y'all. So Livewire's in this one, because, you know, that Livewire's Leslie Willis, and she had a tech suit that allowed her to create electricity, so that foreshadowed it even more. So then, while the two of them are discussing business and everything, Lois and Jimmy come out of the sewer system, and then when Leslie looks over and sees Lois and Jimmy come out of the sewer system, she looks over at the guy that she was talking to, and she was like, oh, you set me up, I told you to come alone. And then the guy was like, well, I work for the government, and this was a setup anyway. So now the two of them are fighting, they're having this big brawl. Leslie is using her electricity suit to try to kill this dude's using whatever to try to kill her. The people are running because the city's in a shambles. And then that's when Jimmy ended up calling Clark on the phone. I don't know what that was supposed to do, but then when Clark's dad gave him the phone and Clark heard Jimmy screaming for help and crying for help because they were in trouble, he flew down to where they were to go save him in his brand new Superman costume. And then when he saves him, Jimmy actually takes a good photo of him holding up a car. Clark ends up doing battle with Livewire, and while he's doing battle with Livewire, she got her suit, like Clark busted her suit. And when Clark busted her suit, she got overly electrocuted, and then her skin started turning blue. And I'm like, yo, here she goes. She's turning into Livewire. So now she's Livewire. She's officially Livewire. Superman stopped her, and then she passed out on the floor. So Superman saves the day. Jimmy got the picture. Clark flew back to his apartment and pretended like he was sick. And then when Jimmy and Lois presented Perry White with an actual photo of Superman, he put it in the front page, and then he stopped the presses. But he didn't give Lois and Jimmy credit for that because, and this is something that was also cool, Perry White gave Cat Grant and 2 other people credit for the Superman byline. So now the beef, the internal beef between Cat Grant and Lois Lane is about to start, and I think that's going to be good when it kicks off. Because they also had a thing going during Supergirl where they were like mortal enemies. So this is going to be interesting. I'm actually looking forward to that. Like I said, but Superman, he's slowly starting to learn who he is now. He still doesn't have heat vision. He still doesn't have X-ray vision, and he still doesn't have freeze breath. So, but he can fly, and he has super strength, and he knows he has super speed. So he's going to keep going back to the ship to try to get more information about who he is, and then he's going to slowly find out who he is. And then in the final scene, Livewire ended up getting captured by the guy that she was talking to who worked for the government. They have her pinned down in a room somewhere, and then he started name dropping things. He was like, tell us what you know about this and about Task Force X. And I was like, oh, Task Force X. And then she was like, I don't know anything about those words that you're saying. And then then he shocks her. And like shocking her shouldn't have worked because she's Livewire now, but he shocked her, and then she was screaming, and he was like, tell us what you know about the Superman. And then when he says that, you saw Amanda Waller standing behind him. I'm like, oh shit, we got the wall. So this actually turning out pretty good. You know, like this turned out to be pretty good. So Amanda Waller's in the mix now. We got Livewire in the mix now. So I guess it's not, I mean, it could still be Inner Gang, but Livewire's in the mix now. Like I said, you know, Lois is still trying to find out who the Man of Steel is. Clark's learning who he is. It's very interesting. I do like this show so far. I'm going to keep riding with it, and thank you for tuning in. So share your questions about what you think about episode 2 of My Adventures with Superman. Do you like it so far? If you watched it, do you not like it so far? You know, like share your questions and we'll talk about it. Hit the notification bell, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit me up on Twitter and or YouTube where you can share your questions, comments, and or concerns. Because again, I got Warrior up on my channel. I got episode 1 of My Adventures with Superman. I got Marvel's Invasion on my channel. And I also have Batman Doom, which freaked me the F out. So until next time, guys, for My Adventures with Superman for episode 2. I can't wait to see what unfolds. Up, and away as always. And we're at this. Yeah!